How does a clueless fawn baffle a cheetah? Why is this hare being made an example? And how do these bandits learn crime pays? Discover the secrets of lessons in raw nature. Some animals have a lot to learn. How to feed, how to fly, how to kill, and that's just for starters. Join us as we take a seat in nature's classroom. To graduate, you need to be cunning, quick, and alert. In the wild, failure isn't an option. How do animals know if they're predators or prey? Is it learned or is it instinctive? A stalking cheetah is a fearsome hunter, especially if you're one of its main targets, a Thompson's gazelle. 70% of its gazelle hunts are successful. So instinct and experience tell the cheetah this is what should happen. Either find your gazelle, chase it and kill it, or find your gazelle, chase it and watch it escape. But what happens when the line between predator and prey is blurred? To find out, let's meet a rule breaker. A young fawn takes its first steps. Weak and defenseless, it hides in the grass until it's strong enough to join the herd. Nearby, another mother's tending her children. Prey and predator living side by side. The fawn instinctively reacts to the sight, shape and smell of its mother's teat. Meanwhile, the gazelle's neighbors are getting hungry. This mother scans the herd for their next meal. Gazelles that leap or stot are flaunting their fitness. The cheetah won't waste her energy here. She's on the lookout for a much softer target. A young fawn's ideal. One short sprint and it should all be over. But this hunt has a twist. The fawn is breaking the rules. It tries to nuzzle the cat instead of fleeing. Could it be confusing her fur with its mother's? The cheetah's equally perplexed. Why is this prey behaving like one of her cubs? Has she made a mistake? Could her poor color vision be misleading her? It's an awkward situation. but it can't last. Something about the cheetah's eyes aren't right. The fawn's mother has eyes on the side of her head. This animal is looking straight at it. A classic hunter's stare used to pinpoint prey. Whatever alarms the fawn, it triggers an instinctive response. It tries to flee, just how prey should behave. The cheetah's no longer confused. This is no cub, it's supper. Both animals learn their place as savage normality is restored. Predators may be born with a killer instinct, but learning to use it can take time. Prey are in for a rough ride. The snowshoe hare's huge feet power leaps of up to 3 meters, so it cuts through the powder at over 40 kilometers per hour. But this expert bounder has a relentless predator on its tail. Pumas are fast, solitary hunters with an amazing turn of speed. The cubs watch intently from the wings. Big, padded paws give their mother traction and stop her sinking. Long hind legs help her clear the snow. Her tail's the perfect counterbalance. This hare's going nowhere. The puma's jaws could make short work of her catch, but this mother's killer instinct is on hold. The hare faces a worst fate. The apprentice's workshop. These cubs started eating meat at 6 weeks old, and their mothers had to kill up to 5 times as much prey to feed them. Fortunately, as many as 8 out of 10 hunting trips are successful, but it's tiring work, and she must teach her cubs to fend for themselves. As the hare makes a bid for freedom, the mother steers her cubs towards it. Four months of play fighting have sharpened the cubs' skills. But how will they cope for real? Through chase and pace, pawing and clawing, and always under their mother's watchful eye, finally the lesson's over. These students have passed the test. And this parent's provided so well for her twins that they don't even need to eat their victim. It's a trophy, not a meal. Eventually, the cubs lose interest and the hare's abandoned. An easy meal for a grateful bobcat. The puma cubs have graduated. Play fighting's of less interest now. Surviving America's frozen north is a serious business. As winter turns to spring, a mass of wriggling bodies arrives in Kamchatka, Russia. After 2 years at sea, sockeye salmon return home in their thousands. They fight their way upstream, swimming 20 kilometers a day to reach spawning grounds. The females hollow out nests in the gravel and lay up to 4,500 eggs. The males rush in to fertilize them. It's instinctive behavior that's not gone unnoticed. After salmon spawn, they die, but many will lose their lives before they even get to breed. This is a crash course in hunting for brown bear cubs. To find out why they're so desperately hungry, we have to return to colder times. The Kamchatkan winter is cruel, too cruel for bears, so they hibernate. These cubs were born underground, their mother's been their only food supply. She suckled them for 4 months, and now she's starving. The cubs are playful after being cooped up in the den. The mother has no time to waste. Exhausted and hungry, there's urgency in her stride. A bear's diet consists mainly of roots, berries and grasses. But at this time of year, it's fatty flesh they crave, and the teeming rivers are where they'll get it. Unlike the lean adult bears, the salmon have fattened up at sea. Another mother has already arrived at the river with her cubs. Her first concern is to claim the best fishing position, though she still keeps a close eye on her brood. They're strong enough to follow her into the shallows, but with rapids below, they're not ready for fancy footwork. So they watch and learn. Bears fish with flair using many different styles. Some sit close to the bank and flick fish out. Others wade in and spear the fish with their claws. But a favorite, and the most dramatic, is the wrestler-style body slam. The bears crash into the water, pin the fish against the bottom and snap their backs. Each bear has a favorite method, and this mother's a body slammer. She learnt it from her mother, and she'll teach it to her cubs. The youngsters watch closely until their mother lands a catch, then wade across to share the prize. As the summer progresses and the bears sharpen their fishing skills, they become calmer and more deliberate. Whilst the cubs start practicing for themselves, their mother gorges even after the fish have died and started to rot. It's thought that 70% of a bear's annual protein comes from these fishing trips, and they desperately need the fat. Females can't breed successfully without it. Although they mate in early summer, their fertilized eggs only start to develop when the mothers put on enough weight. Fat's also needed to trigger hibernation. If reserves are poor, they won't sleep. All this makes teaching cubs how to catch salmon a vital lesson. If they can't fish, they won't make it through the next winter. Hunting's a useful skill, but why bother if you can get someone else to do the hard work for you? This pale, chanting goshawk chick is being fed an easy meal. Its parents haven't caught it, they've stolen it. But who's the victim of their crime? African honey badgers are aggressive beasts that scour the grassland looking for food. They're famed for their tenacity, tackling prey that most hunters would steer clear of. Breaking into a bee's nest seems particularly foolhardy, but the badger perseveres. Eventually, he's forced out by hundreds of stings. But after a short breather, he's back. Again and again until he gets his last piece of honeycomb. It's this never-say-die approach that the goshawks take advantage of. 2 months later, the young goshawk is ready for lessons in thieving. Accompanied by its parents, it sits in a tree in the heart of badger country, watches and waits. The hardy hunter smells a mouse. But the rodent makes a getaway. It's a short-lived escape. Whilst the young bird watches, its mother swoops down and snatches the mouse. Now the badger's really mad. Snorting and sniffing the ground like a demented bloodhound, it catches the scent of a second mouse. No dead tree is going to get between him and his food. The mouse makes a run for it. Now the youngster knows what to do. The badger gives chase, but this cunning bird's been taught too well. Another meal snatched from right under his nose. Flying is a great way to spot food, and this bird uses the height for a very unusual purpose. The baking scrubland takes many casualties. Carcasses are soon stripped bare. Only the bones are left. But that's all some creatures need to get by. When the last scraps of gristle have been plucked from a rotting corpse, it's time for nature's bone breakers to move in. Today, a young Lammergeier vulture is getting a lesson. The blonde birds are the parents, the black-faced bird their youngster. Another of nature's crash courses. Will he pass the test? Having the guts to do the job is a start. Lammergeiers have stomachs like acid baths and can easily digest skeleton. Anything smaller than a lamb's leg can be swallowed whole. But bigger bones take a different approach, and this is his chance to practice. Step 1. Snatch a bone and soar into the air. Step 2. At 60 meters, take aim and let go. He's seen his parents do this. If the bone hits a rock, it'll shatter into more manageable chunks. He misses the target, but the missile's weakened. With his tutors in the wings, the young student swoops down for a second go. Lammergeiers are incredibly nervous and can't defend themselves against animals even half their size. Fighting other scavengers over a carcass is not their style. That's why having a crack at what's left is so vital. The youngster's second attempt scores a direct hit. He's passed the test and quickly lands to grab his meal. Speed is another important lesson. There'll always be other Lammergeiers ready to steal, even his own parents. Young guillemot chicks aren't concerned with soaring to great heights. They just have to learn to get from here to here. It may not look that far, but for a tiny fledgling, it can be a lethal step. Guillemots are small penguin-like birds. Huge groups live off the coast of Norway. Life's precarious from the word go. Mothers nest on bare rock. Fortunately, their eggs are pear-shaped, so they'll roll in a circle, not off the edge. The youngsters are fed constantly by their parents, who rotate exhausting fishing and feeding trips. But at 5 weeks old, it's time for these chicks to learn about life the hard way. Guillemots live most of their life out at sea, but first they have to get to water, even though they're hardly prepared. 2 months before their flight feathers are fully grown, they must take a leap into the unknown. some vicious neighbors are ready to take advantage of any mistakes. But there is help at hand. Each chick is joined by a group of beaked bodyguards, screeching loudly as if in encouragement. These adults spread their tails and jerkily flap their wings to slow themselves to the fledgling's pace. Chicks which land too early make a stumbling dash for the water's edge. Gulls move in for the kill. Those who reach the sea splash up to an adult, most likely a parent, and prepare for the next lesson. But water doesn't guarantee safety. Survivors are taught to swim. With feeding areas up to 50 kilometers away, it makes guillemot sense to take the chicks to the food. There's much more for these birds to learn, but nothing will be as testing as their first trip down from the cliff tops. Some animals don't take lessons. They just react on instinct, like a toad or frog when they see a worm. Their response is simple. If it wriggles, eat it. But such inbuilt behavior can lead to big trouble. Deep in the forests of Central America, a frog sits motionless. It's transfixed by a writhing shape. The frog's being duped. The wriggler is a deadly lure, the tail of a young cantil viper. The snake's armed with heat-seeking sensors. The frog's cold-blooded and hasn't warmed up as fast as its surroundings. It creates a heat void, which the viper can detect. The frog's blissfully unaware of the hunter until it's too late. The snake's con trick wasn't learned, it evolved, and it's far too late for the frog to learn from this experience. Both animals are hardwired to behave just as they do, but over time, the more cautious frogs will live, and snakes with the best lures will eat the less careful ones. Who turns out more canny in the long term is not down to learning, but evolution. Animals whose brains respond to new experiences can break the mold. They're not just creatures of habit. They live by their wits. Mid-afternoon in the forest of Costa Rica, and this parent is concerned for her children's safety. She's a female coati who's built her nest up in the trees. Unfortunately, it's been spotted by raiders. They've got a real taste for meat, coati babies included. Both the monkeys and the mother are wily opportunists. But to find out who's going to win this confrontation, let's see how these animals live. The rains are months away, and this group of capuchins are starving. The forest is bone dry, and the only food left is a few larvae on twigs. They're getting desperate. Meanwhile, down on the ground, a group of expert foragers have learnt some valuable lessons. Coati youngsters are taught that sniffing and clawing at the sand can open up a treasure trove of turtle eggs. Rolling tarantulas around strips them of their poisonous hairs and makes them edible. The coatis work as a team, so no one goes hungry. Their neighbors sit and watch. They've not learned to unlock all the island's hidden larders. Instead, they wait for food to come to them. As the day heats up, the coatis head for the trees. Some rest, but pregnant females separate from the band to give birth in treetop nests. And it's here that their troubles begin. Capuchins have the upper hand in the branches. For these starving monkeys, a coati baby would be the perfect meal. They've learned that if they can draw the mother away from the nest, they're in with a chance. One capuchin tries diversion tactics. She's not fooled and decides to move her 5 young to another nest. This proves her undoing. Whilst moving her second baby, a monkey moves in and snatches the third. The screams of the remaining 2 bring the mother racing back, but too late. A second monkey grabs the rest of her litter. The monkeys now have their morbid meal. These snatch and grab raids can wipe out entire bands of coatis, but they found a way to beat the raiders. They can breed twice a year. The second breeding season's time to coincide with the rains, when there's plenty of fruit and seeds to keep their enemies happy. So although the capuchins have learned to outsmart their neighbors, nature fights back to help the coatis. Coati mothers become vulnerable when they're isolated. But these foragers are never short of company. Led by a dominant male and female, banded mongooses scour the savannah in family groups of up to 15. They fan out to cover as much ground as possible, constantly calling to each other to stay in touch. Once they've found a meal, tackling it doesn't always come naturally. It has to be learned. Snails are up first today, but they're too hard to crack in the jaw. With experience, a mongoose knows how to dislodge the slimy residents. Youngsters only pick up these skills by following the adult's lead. Next, it's caterpillar kebabs. The caterpillars are covered in stinging hairs, so have to be carefully rolled. And then the main course, eggs over easy. Only they're not. Raiding this nest is risky. If the mother crocodile cottons on, it'll be mongoose on the menu. This is a quick lesson. Roll, tap, crack, eat and leave. And there's no sharing here. These mongooses are looking after number one, so it pays to be a good pupil and fast on the uptake. Not all the troop is out foraging. There are domestic matters to attend to. And home for this family is an abandoned termite nest. This female has just given birth. She and her brood are guarded by babysitters, and they're about to be put to the test. The main party is returning home, but on their way, they encounter trouble. A boom slang. Time to close ranks. The snake could cope with one mongoose, but it's no match for this pack of snarling faces and razor-sharp teeth. It's a happy result for the foragers, but the delay has left the babysitters in need of backup. They're threatened by a roving pack of neighbors. They want the termite mound for themselves, and if they take it, they'll kill the babies. Teeth and claws flash as the babysitters try to hold off the intruders, but they're outnumbered. Their only chance is to defend all the entrances to the mound. They need reinforcements. Just in time, the cavalry arrives. They charge the invaders with the same group ferocity they used on the snake. And it works. The youngsters in the pack have learned many valuable lessons today. How to work as a team, how to defend your family, and how to find food. Learning to locate food is pretty easy in the African forest. It's full of nuts, fruits, and insects. Animals with snouts, tongues, teeth, and beaks harvest them. But what do other animals do if nature's not given them the right equipment for the job? They make their own. To some animal artisans, this isn't a jungle, it's a tool shed. Let's share a workshop with our closest wild relatives. Chimpanzees across Africa have developed all sorts of gadgets to get the food they need. They're attentive teachers. Wise elders gather pupils around them to share their skills. In East Africa, these youngsters are being shown you don't need a snout to harvest termites. A fishing lesson is in full swing. Make a rod from grass or reeds, then dip it into your termite mound. When you get a catch, be careful how you take it out, or you'll lose it. Persistence pays, but for some beginners, boredom sets in quickly. There are some disruptive pupils in these classes. Young males often mess about. Female chimps are keener than the boys. They learn younger, spend longer studying, and are more successful students. This young female is top of the ant fishing class, snapping and cracking a stick to make the perfect lever to pry the ants out. Meanwhile, across in West Africa, no beak, no problem, as this mother gives her kids a masterclass in nut cracking. She's gathered the nuts, selected her favourite rock hammer and taken it to her favourite anvil. The daughter's keen to learn and takes notes, but her younger brother's keen to keep swinging. He wants the nuts without putting in the effort. And it takes a lot of learning. About 7 years to master the art. It's all too much for the brother, and he takes it out on the teacher's pet. After a hard day in the classroom, it's time to sit back, relax, and eat. But these students have some inquisitive neighbors. At first, all seems friendly and relaxed. But the mood soon changes. Rocks once used as hammers are now put to more violent use. Branches are used as spears. Why are these apes so keen to see off their monkey cousins? What dark secrets do baboons harbour? At first sight, baboons seem to be a gentle group. They live in large, well-ordered societies. The young discover the rules of the troop through watching adults and playing with peers. Learning how to groom strengthens family ties. Facial expressions, gestures, touching and calls all convey feelings and have to be mastered to find your place in the group. Yawning's not a sign of boredom, it's a threat. A huge grin is no laughing matter. It's a sign of fear. With their dexterous hands and fingers, baboons are able to eat, investigate, and manipulate, and they teach their children how to do the same. Caring and sharing, attentive and nurturing. The baboons seem to be the perfect natural neighbors. All looks well, but looks can be deceptive. Some adults have learnt a darker lesson, and it's a lesson they're keen to teach their kids. Baboons living near humans are tempted by the easy life. These bad boys are heading where they know the pickings will be rich. A rubbish tip. Here they can scavenge at will. To get the tastiest morsels means stepping outside the law, human law. Baboons think nothing of breaking and entering. These crafty bandits save their most cunning tricks for the cornfields. It would take all day for a baboon to gather enough wild seeds to match the energy from just 2 ears of maize, so a farmer's field proves too good an opportunity to miss, however well fortified it is. They've worked out when, where and how to get through fences, and once in, how to harvest their ill-gotten gains quickly. It's their daring nature and flexible diet that makes these baboons so successful. These crop raiders are bigger, breed earlier, and live longer than their truly wild relatives. They've more time to relax, play, and socialize. We may think it's an unsettling lesson, but for baboons, crime really does pay. There's little time for mistakes in a wild classroom. Whatever you're taught, be sure to listen, learn, and practice. Knowing your lessons can make the difference between life and death in raw nature.